Summary of My Effin' Life written by Geddy Lee. Chapter 1. In the quiet recesses of memory, amidst the subtle hum of nostalgia, lies the story of a family, a tale woven with threads of sacrifice, revelation, and the harmonies of a hidden past. Gary, a seasoned musician, recounts the intricacies of his childhood, unraveling the layers that concealed his father's musical legacy. With the candor of reflection, he invites us into the intimate corridors of his family's history, tracing the melody of a balalaika through the chapters of struggle, migration, and the pursuit of a new life. The narrative begins in an unexpected symphony, challenging assumptions about Gary's early exposure to music. Far from the common trope of a musically enriched upbringing, Gary describes a childhood home where music was a scarce presence. The radio's perpetual murmur in the car was the closest encounter with musical sounds, yet even then, the author recalls his father's apparent indifference to the melodies that danced through the airwaves. The image painted is one of a stoic man, a father whose silence on musical matters left an impression that music simply did not register with him. However, the author shatters this initial illusion with a revelation that resounds like a striking chord. It unfolds in the suburbs of the Motor City, Detroit, during a show where familial ties intersect with a hidden musical legacy. The author, playing in Detroit, reconnects with the family of his father's only surviving brother, Sam. In an offhand remark, Aunt Charlotte casually unveils the family's best-kept secret. "It's so nice that you have become a musician. After all, so is your father." The revelation lands like an unexpected crescendo, leaving the author stunned. The man he thought he knew, his father, concealed a musical past that stretched back to the old country. In the echoes of Aunt Charlotte's words, the balalaika emerges as the forgotten protagonist in the father's tale, a companion at parties, bar mitzvahs, and weddings. The balalaika, an instrument resonating with cultural significance, was silenced by the trials of migration and the pursuit of a new life. This revelation, though startling, opens a portal into the complex narrative of the family's post-war journey. Gary's parents, survivors of the Holocaust, lived in the shadow of Bergen-Belsen, once a concentration camp and later a displaced persons camp. The aftermath of the war had cast them adrift, and they found themselves in Germany, striving to piece together shattered lives. The decision to emigrate to Canada was a bold leap into an unknown future, away from the scars of war and genocide. As the author probes the depths of this revelation, he uncovers a poignant episode that adds a layer of regret to the family's history. The balalaika, an artifact of musical heritage, was deemed superfluous by Gary's mother during the preparations for departure. She insisted that his father leave behind dat fiedel, dismissing the instrument and its musical endeavors as indulgences incompatible with the exigencies of forging a new life. The author reflects on this pivotal moment, expressing a mix of perplexity and sorrow. In a candid dialogue with his mother, initiated upon his return from the Detroit tour, the author unravels the intricacies of that decision. The family's post-war life in Germany, their subsequent move to Canada, and the struggle to assimilate into a new land form the backdrop of this revelation. The author's mother, visibly embarrassed, reveals the depth of her regret. The balalaika, once dismissed as superfluous, emerges as a connection to the father's buried past, a thread that, if retained, might have enriched the author's understanding of his own musical aptitude. This revelation becomes a turning point in the narrative, as the author grapples with the impact of the mother's decision on his father's silence regarding all things musical. The silence, once perceived as a lack of interest, now reveals itself as a guarded reservoir of untold stories and unexplored passions. Looking back on those years, the author questions whether he missed signs of his father's musical soul, whether the decision to buy a piano for his sister was an attempt to plant a musical seed and reconnect with a silenced past. The answers remain elusive, lost to the passage of time. The author's recollections spiral back to his early years, around the age of 6, when his parents purchased a piano primarily for his sister, Susie, who was 2 years older. The piano, a symbol of aspirations for well-raised Canadian schoolchildren, marked the beginning of the family's foray into music. A piano teacher was enlisted, and Susie, through battles with the keyboard, eventually participated in a school recital. The author, in contrast, reminisces about quietly listening to the lessons from the next room or hiding under the table. The narrative then takes an unexpected turn, revealing the author's inclination to recreate Susie's melodies on the piano by ear after the teacher left. While the author downplays his skill by asserting, "I can assure you I was no Glenn Gould," the tale hints at the early stirrings of musical aptitude. The narrative transitions to the author's earliest memory of his father, a 3-year-old gazing out of the picture window of their Shaw Street home in downtown Toronto. The melancholy winter dusk sets the scene as the author awaits his father's return from work. The father's ritual of pouring himself a snort of Canadian Club rye whiskey before fully engaging with the family is depicted with sensory richness, the clink of the bottle, the aroma of liquor, and the distinctive sound of contentment that follows. This ritual, a prelude to the father's affectionate interactions with the family, is etched in the author's memory. The author offers glimpses into the father's character, loving yet strict, with an explosive temper that required significant provocation. The narrative pauses to acknowledge the unfairness of highlighting the few bad moments, recognizing the miraculous nature of the father's survival after the war. The love between the parents is emphasized, depicted as resilient against the backdrop of arguments that, in the author's words, may seem like shouting to Gentiles, but were merely regular conversations around their dinner table. The author's childhood, situated in a Jewish home, is illuminated through anecdotes that portray the vibrant, argumentative nature of familial interactions. The high holidays become a cacophony of passionate exchanges, reflecting the cultural tapestry of a Jewish household. Despite the intensity of arguments, the underlying love between the parents triumphs. The narrative playfully recounts an episode from the author's childhood when he misunderstood his father's romantic gesture, a subtle signal for intimacy that he learned about later from his schoolmates. Amidst the family's domestic life, the narrative shifts to the socio-economic struggles faced by Gary's parents. Motivated to build a new life and raise a family, they held factory jobs on Spadina Avenue, Toronto's hub for the mat industry. The description paints a picture of working-class life, where both parents toiled to make ends meet. The author provides insights into the family's financial constraints, describing their lack of spare cash and time for frivolous pursuits like music. Sundays become a respite for the family, marked by picnics with relatives and cousins in Toronto Island or High Park. The author paints a vivid picture of these gatherings, men sitting on a blanket, playing cards, and the distinctive voice of his father rising above the others. The description captures the camaraderie and simple joys of these gatherings, juxtaposing the harshness of factory life with moments of familial connection. The narrative introduces a phase when Gary's father was hired by a distant cousin to work in a shoddy mill, rising to a position of authority before a sudden fallout led to his unemployment. The father's subsequent resilience is highlighted as he bounces back, partnering with someone to start Lakeview Felt, a venture that, despite initial promise, collapses due to betrayal. This period of unemployment becomes a significant chapter, revealing the father's determination to carve a niche for himself. The narrative also touches on the author's childhood curiosity as he explores his father's workplace, marveling at the machines and the distinctive odors of wool and oil. Despite setbacks, the father's entrepreneurial spirit prevails as he decides to venture into the retail business. Times Square Discount, a small variety store in Newmarket, Ontario, becomes a testament to the father's bold move into unfamiliar territory. The author recalls visiting the store, witnessing his father's commitment, and the local newspaper highlighting the positive impact of his presence on the community. This episode becomes a testament to the father's adaptability and resilience. The narrative pauses to reflect on Toronto's post-war immigrant population's trend of moving north to the suburbs. Gary's mother humorously predicts that after the Jews move, the Italians would follow, creating a cascade of hand-me-down neighborhoods. The suburbs, initially perceived as bland, represent a haven for the family, a place where children can play freely and where the dream of a new, spacious life unfolds. The description of these suburbs, characterized by unimaginative architecture, barren landscapes, and low fences, contrasts with the crowded, grimy downtown where the family initially settled. As the family moves from rental homes in downtown Toronto to a purchased bungalow in the North Toronto suburb of Downsview, the author reflects on the transformation. The new house on 53 Vinci Crescent, with its triangular slice of property and a garden boasting plum, apple, and cherry trees, becomes a blissful Garden of Eden. The description transports the reader to the author's childhood sanctuary, a space where friendships blossomed, and the taste of ripe fruit symbolized freedom and the sweetness of a new life. The narrative shifts to the mundane yet defining aspects of suburban life: the architecture, the spacious backyards, and the quintessential two-car garages. The author paints a vivid picture of a suburban landscape that, though bland to his young eyes, represents a dream fulfilled for his parents. The suburbs, with their promise of safety and space, become a canvas on which the family's aspirations are painted. The author fondly recalls the allure of Red Cap Ale and Carling Black Label, the stubby bottles, and the shared moments with family on lazy Sundays. Gary's son, Julian, introduces a generational perspective, expressing admiration for the cleanliness and beauty of the suburbs during visits to his grandmother. The narrative reflects on the contrast between the author's childhood perceptions and his son's perspective, illustrating how one generation's ceiling can become another's floor. The family's migration to the suburbs, while a dream realized for the parents, represents a generational shift where the author's son sees beauty and order. The narrative reflects on the parents' viewpoint, emphasizing that the suburbs, with their treeless neighborhoods and occasional swing sets, provided a haven where children could play freely. The author acknowledges the difference in parenting styles between that era and the present, where helicopter parenting was non-existent, and children were sent on errands without constant monitoring. The author reminisces about risky escapades, such as climbing on rooftops, revealing a childhood where independence and exploration were part of growing up. The narrative weaves a poignant memory from the author's childhood, an adventurous bike ride to his new school that culminated in a risky climb on a drainpipe to retrieve lost tennis balls. The author's descent becomes a moment of realization, as the heights he scaled now transform into a daunting challenge. The narrative vividly captures the author's vulnerability as he lies on his back, gasping for breath, beneath the vast suburban sky. The episode concludes with the author sneaking home, soaking in the tub to soothe his aching body, and realizing that the escapade went unnoticed, a quintessential experience from a bygone era. As the narrative seamlessly transitions, the author offers insights into his school years. Faywood Public School becomes the backdrop for the author's journey, where he emerges as a quiet, unremarkable student. The report cards, featuring comments about his potential if only he applied himself, serve as a recurring motif. The author's introspective remark about the common misconception that quietness equates to deep thinking adds nuance to his character. In Grade 5, the narrative takes an artistic turn as the author discovers the joy of singing in the school choir. The author, in a revelation, discloses his role as a soprano, a detail that adds a touch of vulnerability and humor to the narrative. The author's participation in the Leonard Bernstein musical, On the Town, as an alternate becomes a turning point. The night of the play, a teacher, initially perceived as stern, recognizes the author's potential and invites him to operate spotlights,